Hey, welcome to another episode of the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Jeff Harrison, along with my co-host.
Leslie Spoor.
Yeah, I feel like I need to have like one of those grinders, and the monkey is that's Leslie.
I am not a monkey.
No. But how are you doing today?
Cuter than a monkey. I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Good. I changed my background because if you're not here in the desert and you're listening to this at some point in the summer, it is going to be another, I think it's probably our third day in a row in the teens. I think it's supposed to be like 114 today, down from, I think yesterday it got up to 117. So I thought a little snow on the mountains with the golf course in the background would make me feel a little cooler.
I was going to try to put a background on here, but I don't have anything loaded. So...
Yeah, that's okay. Yours is a background. It is a background, isn't it? Because aren't you at your mansion on the coast? Isn't that the beach behind you? No,
that's my home office behind me.
Ah, gotcha.
But I did neaten up the piles, so it's not so bad.
That looks pretty good. Good. Hey, you have a topic for us today and I'm going to put it up. Because
okay, good.
Because this was something you put up. I don't even know what it is. Tempus Fugit.
Fugit.
Tempus Fugit. Time flies, and so do we if we're not careful. What the heck does that mean?
That's like Tempus Fugit is obviously Latin. That means time flies, and it means like.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? Obviously, I'm not Latin. I didn't know what that meant, and I was like looking at what is Tempus Fugit. I thought maybe it was some kind of a word scramble. I'm like, what other words could I put together with this? So thank you. So it just means time flies. Gotcha. Go ahead.
He says time flies right there. Duh. So what it means is that time goes by so fast, and the older we get, the faster it goes. Right? You ever notice that? Like you just feel like you took down your Christmas lights, and it's time to put them back up again.
Is that I have a question about that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a little disruptive this morning. Is that a mindset or do you think that's reality? If you ask people as they get older, time flies faster.
I think, everybody I've talked to on my informal surveys is that they feel like time goes faster. However, I think it has to do with anticipation. When you're a kid and you are excited about your birthday coming, or you're excited about, Christmas, or you're going on a trip somewhere and it seems like it takes forever to get there, but going home goes really fast, right? Have you ever noticed that? You guys
true. Yep.
So it's because of the anticipation level. If you don't anticipate anything, or there's an event, a wedding. My grandson's getting married in November, and it feels like I can't wait for it to get here, and yet it's just so slow, and yet we're already at the end of June, right? When are we filming this? Oh, we're in July. I don't know where we are.
Towards the end of June. Yeah.
Physically, we're towards the end of June. In the video, I think we're more in July, but it doesn't matter. The point is that the month flies by fast, but getting to the wedding seems like it's taking forever. So it's an anticipation thing. Initially is what I have in my mind, is that if we can create more events that we anticipate, it will slow time down, because we get so busy and we get so distracted and things are just gone. Time is just gone. And as somebody who sells time for a living, right, I feel like if I can teach people a little bit about how to slow it down, it might be a little bit more valuable for them. I don't know. Kind of my thought process.
Well, okay. I mean, one of your titles here is why time feels like it speeds up the older we get. Is it because we don't have enough things we're anticipating to do? Is that what you're saying?
Right. And when you're becoming a grown-up and getting old is when, chronologically speaking, I don't think I'm old in my head, but chronologically speaking, is when, literally using the example of Christmas again with the lights, it seems like it comes so fast. I'm like, oh my God, do I have to drag out my Christmas ornaments and my tree and I have decorated it? Like, this used to be a source of extreme joy for me. Christmas is my second favorite holiday, Halloween being the first. So Christmas, I love Christmas, and I love gifting. Gifts are my love language. So I really love gifting. But but it's the idea of the work that goes into setting it all up, especially because nobody really comes to our house anymore.
Mm.
You know, when my grandma passed away, they skipped over me and went right to my daughters.
Ah.
So I don't get the big family things here. So it's not really like, why do I need to decorate? I'm going to go someplace else that's decorate. But if I don't decorate, then I feel like I've missed the whole event season, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
I wonder. I wonder if it's one of those things. If we think of about life like a candle, um, when it's brand new, does that mean it's burning? It has the appearance of burning slower, but then as the wick and the candle gets smaller, does it seem like it burns faster, even though really nothing changed except time?
yeah, I typically burn the candle at both ends. So then that means that my candle goes too. But it's the same with gasoline. You know, when you first fill up your car, it seems like a long time to get down to three quarters or half. But once you get to half, it just seems like it sucks it right up.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's the same thing with the candle. I think that's true. I think the perception is that it burns faster the shorter it gets, or the less wax that is available. I don't know if that's true. I haven't put up a delayed, or what do you call them? Those timers that are speeded up to kind of measure all that. I have not done that, so I don't know. But I do know that as we age and as we add in, you know, being married and having kids and um, or building businesses or all the distractions that we add into our life every day, I know that we can lose sight of that which causes excitement and anticipation. It's sort of a drudgery. You know, people always say, well, being married and being a grown up is sort of mundane and boring because you're doing this. You make your bed every day, you go to work every day, you pay the bills, you know, you go grocery shop, you do the same tasks over and over again. And especially as a business owner, we can really fall into that trap.
Mm.
Or we can fall into the trap of we have to schedule so far in advance that the time, it seems like for example, right before we went on vacation, right, we just got back from vacation, I started scheduling things for after vacation on the calendar, and I started to feel like, oh my god, I just skipped over my whole vacation because
Mm.
now I'm already scheduling things after that. So it kind of, using your schedule and putting things out farther than today does seem like it speeds everything up. Does that make sense to you? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it does, because I just recently watched a video about how we as humans have gotten to be so busy that there's no real downtime. And if we have any downtime, we pick up this device and we fill up that quiet time where we used to, in the day we would stop, whether it's stop in our car because we didn't have a phone and we would just sit and just be quiet, or go to the park and just be quiet. And that would seem like it would slow things down. But
Right.
now it's well, I can watch this 4-minute video. I can listen to this. I can send these emails. And next thing, it's like the day is gone. And I think you said earlier, we become so busy. Some of us are not getting things done. We're just being busy. And
Yeah,
I wonder
busy
if
is a bad word. Busy is a bad word.
Yeah, I wonder, as you say, how your schedule might be sabotaging your sanity. I try to put things on my calendar so that if somebody says, "Can you do this?" If it's available, yes. If not, no. And like, especially with, I think I have now 5 podcasts that I'm involved in one way or the other. And so I have to be careful of my time. And when people say, "Well, can you do it on a certain date?" No, no, I only interview people on this particular day for that particular podcast. And so for me, that guards my time into not being too overwhelmed, but it's not 100%. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think that when we're first newly starting our own business and self uh, motivated, right? I always say that owning a business and working on a W-2 job is like the difference between being in high school and being in college, right? In high school, you have to go every day. So a regular job makes you go every day. When you start your own business, it's like being in college. They don't care if you show up or you don't. Your success is going to depend on how much you show up.
Yeah.
And so when you first start a business, especially, but even later in the years, you can get so entrenched in saying yes to things. You don't calendar stuff, and you say yes to everything, and you find out that you miss appointments, or you are overbooked and overworked and frustrated and overwhelmed and exhausted and twisted and bent, as we say. And so by putting things on the calendar has been one of my go-tos for how to help people become more organized. Because if you make it like, for example, if you want to go to the gym and you say, I'm too busy to go to the gym, but if you calendar it in for a certain period of the day, in my case, when I used to go, I'd go at 4 a.m. because that was really before my day got started. I could come back and take a shower and get on with my day. So it was really nice to do that. But if you don't put it on the calendar, you won't go.
Mm.
I mean, it's hard enough to make people go to the gym on a regular basis. I know you play pickleball every day, pretty much. Is it every day? I think so. Yeah.
Except Tuesdays,
Why not Tuesdays?
BNI.
BNI. Oh yeah, of course. So then you're there with me talking about BNI.
That's it.
So I think when you put things on the calendar, it makes them more of a priority, and it does allow you to say no. The word no is such a small word with such a big impact, and people don't. They're afraid to say no, especially in the beginning, but even later, some people never learn how to say no. I used to volunteer all the time for charities, and I was on boards and did things. And a volunteer can become a full-time job, especially if you have a caregiver mentality. You just want to help. So you say yes and yes, and I'll do this committee and I'll do that. And all of a sudden you're working 3 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So I had to finally start to say no. And no is a big word. And it's crucial to our sanity and our scheduling and our ability to slow time down a little bit. You have to say no and put what's important on the calendar.
Well,
Which
speaking of
is
that, well,
Go
speaking
ahead.
of that, Leslie. Well, speaking of that, do you block quiet time for yourself every day? Where you say,
No.
okay, it's just
No.
about me. It's not about your husband. It's not about catching up on things. It's about you doing nothing, but just being by
Uh
yourself. Is it
no.
scheduled? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I have a couple of programs in the afternoons that I like to watch, and so I will work from 6 to 2 and take a break for an hour and then come back to work. You might be able to categorize that as taking time for myself because it's something I just like to do. And by 2 o'clock, I need a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is why I wrote Tempus Fugit, was because this is a newsletter that just came out too. I really need to make my time a priority because as we get older, and I keep coming back to that because it's funny, you start to get a new perspective on life. And I hear myself thinking and saying things that old people used to think and say, and I thought, what's wrong with that? And all of a sudden I'm in that category now. So, um, life, it does go by so fast. Tempus fugit, it flies by, and you need to. Well, we're going to get to this in the end, but carpe diem, right? You need to seize the day. That's another Latin phrase for seize the day, and um, make every day count. Not only in the work you do for your business, but for yourself, right?
Give us
You,
an
you
example.
Well, playing pickleball is a good example. I know that's relaxing for you. It gets you in your exercise. You do it early in the day, so your exercise piece is out, and I'm sure that helps your sanity. It's almost like meditation for you, right? I'm using you as an example because I'm a poor example. I know that you also spend about 30 minutes in the morning to read and catch up, familiarize yourself with the latest in AI
Hmm.
technology because you're the leading guru on AI in this desert, as far as I'm
Thank
concerned.
you. Thank you.
And then what else? And then I know you also sit down and look at what am I doing for the day, and I'm planning my day out, right? And
Yeah.
that's a good thing to do the night before, even. The night before is to say, okay, and most people, by the way, They have certain tasks that they just don't want to do, right? We all have a task that's ugly. We just like, "Ugh, I just don't want to do this one." I would make that one first. Get it out of the way, get it off your plate, and then move on. It's like a big old burden comes off of you when you do that. It could be writing a proposal. It could be making phone calls to clients or setting up appointments for new potential client meetings or vendor meetings or whatever. I will say, I had to make it a point to start networking in person, and you
Mm.
made me do that. Because since COVID, I really hadn't been going out anymore to anything. I didn't really need to. We had business coming in all the time.
Yeah.
But you get to a point where your brain stagnates. You need human interaction. Excuse me. You need human interaction. And so joining BNI was a godsend. And now I've joined a real estate organization in Palm Springs, and I'm joining a chamber as well. Are you part of the Rancho Mirage Chamber?
Yep.
Yeah, do you go to their events?
No.
Are you going to go to their events?
I could. Yeah, I could.
I'll join if you'll go. How's
Okay. And
that?
I'll go if you join.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I think the schedule is key to maintaining your sanity, or it can work both ways. It can screw it up, or it can make it better. And I think the biggest key to what makes the difference there is whether or not you can say no. Would you agree with that? You're just looking at me like you're blank,
Well,
Tamara.
no, I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna continue with that.
No.
I want to ask you how much Pareto's principle 80/20 plays into this. Does
Mm,
it? Do we tend to overload our
that's a
things
good
that
point.
really have no direct impact on? And it doesn't have to be business, but it could be business. It could be our happiness. It could be our health, and we're spending so much time on things that have absolutely no bearing on the outcome that we don't. It doesn't work. Does the 80/20 fit into this at all?
Absolutely. And that's a good point to make. Thank you for bringing that up. Pareto's 80/20 rule, Vilfredo Pareto, who was also Italian, he was an Italian philosopher.
Since we're in
His,
Latin and stuff, I thought I would throw something in
you
there.
throw something in there, right? Vilfredo Pareto was a philosopher who posited that 80% of your issues lie in 20% of the data, widgets, whatever. It's always the 80/20 rule. Quite often, business owners in particular, all of us, but business owners in particular, will get caught up in needing to look at every piece of data, everything with their business, um, every pickleball game, every. And you don't really have to. I live and die by management by exception, right? You know that. I've talked about it a lot, which is Vilfredo Pareto's 80/20 rule. I don't need to look at everything that's going on in either of my businesses. I only need to look at the 20% that is either not getting done or is behind or there's some kind of issue with it, right? Everything else falls into place. Now, the risk at operating from a management by exception position, which is especially critical if you have employees, even if they're subcontract employees. If you have employees and you're managing by exception, it's very easy for them to become offended and defensive.
Mm,
And the
mm,
reason is because you're not focusing on what's getting done, you're focusing on what's not getting done, right? And
yeah.
it goes back to that continuous process improvement philosophy where I want to look to see what's not getting done so I can see what's broken in the process so I can fix that and reduce the percentage of things that aren't getting done, right? There's a plan, do, check, act uh, component that is a circle: plan, do, check, act. That's a component of continuous process improvement that says identify the 20%, make a plan, identify what the root cause of the problem is, make a plan to fix it, plan, do, check the plan, check and see if the next measurement, the next metric that you do on that situation is improved. What did I say? Plan, do, check, act, and then take action on that. So plan, do, check, act. Um, if you focus on the 20% of your life, and I don't care what aspect you're talking about, your kids' behavior, you're running your business, your health. If you work on 20%, the rest of it all follows. It always does, because that's the what's the word I'm looking for? I keep saying rule, but it is a rule, but it's a axiom,
Principle. Mm,
principle. That's how it works, right?
okay.
So you focus on 20%. Once you do that, look at how much time you save,
Mm,
right? If it, you know what it takes me on executive air, it's I spend about an hour a week, maybe 2 hours a week, looking at what's going on in my business. I only, because I already have all the reports done for management by exception, and I get a dashboard that pops up when I sign on to Essential Elements that says these things are behind. And so I have it right in front of me. And I can drill down through that dashboard and see what else is going on that might have caused that problem, or how to fix it. So the amount of time I have to spend managing my company is minimal,
yeah.
right? That's how it should be for everybody. So you don't, which also helps with time flies, because we all need more time, right? Everybody says there's not enough hours in the day, right? Well, that's because you're doing everything, and you can't do everything. You can only do 20% of everything. That's how I feel about it. Oh, anticipation. Okay.
Well, we're talking about how Tempus Fugit, which is Latin for time.
Fugit. Jit.
Fugit, Fugit sound. Time flies, and the thought is, as we get older, time moves faster. And I want to read a note here. It says, "You didn't start your business to become a prisoner of it. So if you're stuck in the rinse and repeat cycle and wondering how to get your life back, this is for you."
Yeah, that sounds like my advertisement for Freedom by Design, doesn't it?
Well,
my
a,
educational program.
a little bit, but it is one of those things. Like, as an example, part of my business is, I call it lather, rinse, repeat, like you see on a shampoo bottle. It's a simple process. So, like, creating your content once a week and posting it. Create your content once a week and post it, and that creates a result. But you're not talking about that, are you?
No, I'm talking about uh, evaluating what you do every day. I usually like to have people do a time study for a few days. Look at what you're doing every day and decide how much of that is busy work, how much of that is aggravating you, how much of that is stuff that doesn't ever need to be done. So I'll give you an example. Years ago, I used to do everything. I wore all the hats for executive errands. I did everything. And one day, quickly, I realized that if I had to process one more credit card, or run or make one more invoice, I was going to literally throw my computer across the room. I was so sick of doing. To me, it was just boring and mundane, the bookkeeping that was associated with the business, which you have to do. But I just, oh my God, I didn't hate it. I like the detail, but I just didn't want to do it. I felt like my time was better spent doing something else. So eventually I hired a bookkeeper. Now, keep in mind that when you sell hours for a living, you start measuring everything, and how many hours do I have to sell to cover this person, right? And I thought, oh, I never can afford this. But you know what? I hired her, and my business grew because I was allowed then to go focus on other things. So part of what you need to do is create joy, deliberately create joy in your life. And you can do that by this time study and figure out what really is necessary for you to do, because most of the stuff that we do and as a business owner can be easily done by somebody else. Quite a bit of it. Do I need to be the one to meet with clients? Yes. All right. Or potential clients. Although I have a couple people trained up that can do it if I'm not available, and they do a really good job. But generally, it's my face and my voice and my personality that sells a client, right? It should be, as I started the company.
Right.
but I don't need to do bookkeeping. I don't need to chase vendors. I don't need to schedule vendors. I mean, there's just so many things I don't need to do. So if we evaluate what it is we're doing, and then kind of like if you're going to clean out a closet and you have a keep, throw away, and donate pile, it's kind of the same thing with your tasks. What do I have to keep? What can I delegate? What can I eliminate? Kind of the same.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the ways to bring joy back into your life, is stop doing things you don't like.
Do you think we as humans, especially, I would say, especially in the last 5 years, where it feels like everything has sped up, just the world in general.
Mm-hmm.
I always think, and we all do this. Well, things are changing so fast in my industry, and you can fill in the blank. And we think it's only our industry, but it actually is the entire freaking world. It doesn't matter. I could talk to a farmer, and the way they farm has changed so much, and the way they put fertilizer on the field has changed so much, and the way they get, and it's like, oh gosh, it used to be so easy. Well, that's true across the board. And I'm just wondering, again, with all these changes that are going on, and if you do, let's say you do have one of those delete piles, are we guilty of, as soon as we get rid of it, we fill it back up? Because, what's that saying? Nature abhors a vacuum. So we fill it back up with something that again is unnecessary.
Yeah, and that's really common, by the way. I do major purges in my house, and I'm ruthless about it. I said, oh, I got 17 wooden spoons. I only need 2 or 3, and I get rid of them. And I do that with everything, and then I find that the stuff starts to creep back in because I'm out and I'm going, oh, that's a cool wooden spoon, and I get. So yes, business owners in particular need to be very, very careful that they don't take on additional things because they feel like they have all this space. Now, what I recommend instead is to create content. Go look at, what can I do to establish myself as an expert in this industry? What can I do to create additional revenue streams, right? What other services can I offer? Or what other products can I offer? What can I do that's innovative and different than the guy that I'm competing with? Start to put your head in, how do I work on my business instead of in it? And I talk about this like 99% of the time. So look at ways to grow your business, not accept more busy work to fill in the busy work. When we went through COVID, that's what I did. I wrote 14 tips booklets that we now sell on our website on Concierge Business Solutions. Things about, how do I increase my rates? How do I hire employees? Do I want employees or subcontractors? How do I find new vendors? All these different things that I learned from experience, I put into tips booklets because I had so much time during COVID that we couldn't do anything. Yeah. So I'm not going to sit there and go on vacation. I'm going to do something that makes revenue. And that's how people have to think.
Well, I think that point you just made there is if you do something once, but it will pay you indefinitely, versus this activity, I only get paid when I do it.
Right.
If we can shift that mindset, is that part of this power of anticipation?
No, that's different. But changing the paradigm of, or your thought process of, I have these tasks. It's really easy because when you start a business, you fall into all this stuff. You all of a sudden you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. And then and I say, stop. What can we delegate? What can we eliminate? Okay, we've done that. Now what are you going to do at this time? And now I want you to change your mindset to say, how do I grow my business? How do I create passive income? How do I increase my revenue streams? I'm shocked constantly by similar lifestyle management companies to Executive Airrooms who only have one revenue stream. I have 5 for that business. It's easy. Why are you selling for one? You know what I mean? Right. So people, it's an education thing. They don't know what they don't know. And so you have to help them. And that's why we're here, right? I don't know anything hardly about AI. That's why I have you. You know AI. And I'm always begging you, please help me with this. Okay. But I know business, and I know I've helped you with business a lot over the years. We've been friends forever. So Um, it's just a mindset change. And if people don't have a coach or a mentor or a cheerleader helping them with this stuff, it's easy to backslide into the same old busy work all the time.
Well, it's kind of like that situation where it says, okay, oh, I don't feel like going to the gym today. It's starting as our mind is nothing more than a muscle. It starts to erode that muscle to say the next day, I'm not going to do it again today. And next thing you know, you haven't been to the gym in 2 or 3 or 4 times. The next thing you know, you're really not going to the gym anymore.
Right.
Versus just flipping it around and saying, okay, I'm going to set it the night before. Speaking of the gym, I'm going to put my shoes there. I'm going to have the shorts I'm going to wear, the shirt I'm going to wear, the socks, everything, so that when I get out of bed, it's right there.
Right.
And so it makes it easy to get back into it. And, then add just like a muscle, all of a sudden it becomes routine and you're back going to the gym 3 times a week or 5 times a week, whatever your goal is. With the same thing of power anticipation, it seems like it makes me want to get out of bed and go do things when I have things that I'm anticipating. I'll give you an example. We were asked to speak at a conference, and so I'm excited about that coming up in just a few days. Now, the window of opportunity was very small. It came out of the blue because I had literally less than 7 days to prepare for it. And when you go to a conference, when you're the speaker and you're going to be doing some booth work, you've got to have some material. Well, my business, I typically don't have those kind of things.
Right.
You want to have things to hand out. I don't have that kind of stuff. So I'm scrambling to get that together. But in a way, it's a little bit fun because
totally fun.
It's peaked a little different level. But the cool thing about this, Leslie, is I have really tapped into AI to help me put this together. It's a lot of fun.
I wish you'd make me an intake form. I need one of those, and I just am dragging my feet on it. Do you need help at the booth on Monday? I'd be happy to come and help you.
I do. I didn't realize it till yesterday because they asked me to shift from talking about AI agents only to AI, marketing with AI for local businesses, which is really more broad. And I'd already spent hundreds of dollars on printed material. And they said, no, you can still use that because there's somebody talking about chatbots. Well, I'm not talking about chatbots. I'm talking about AI agents, different thing. And I just didn't want to step on somebody's toes. So now I'm going to be speaking on the table called Ask the Expert. I'll have a booth, and I'm asked to also speak on a panel later in the day. So I may tap on you to help me run the booth. If I've asked another person just real quickly off the top of my head that has some understanding of AI to jump in and help me. She's freaking out a little bit too, and I said, I'll be right next door. So,
well, I've done booth work a lot because I do expos quite often. So if you need help, I'm happy to. I can read the material and answer enough questions to get them back to you. So
cool. That'd be fun. All right. Yeah. Well, I'll keep that in mind. So anyway, so that's about anticipation. So I think
let's talk about anticipation. Oh yeah. So I have a little bit more if you don't mind.
Okay. Go, girl.
Okay. You know me. I like to talk. So
I'm anticipating you're going to have something.
Yes. Oh, good. It'll take forever to get there. So one of the things that we need to do in our life in order to increase the anticipation and slow time down is to create more milestones. And most of us, especially as we get older and we're busy and we're working and we have families and all this stuff, we save that kind of celebration type thing for a handful of events, right? Birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. But really, we can start planning things to create anticipation, even if it's on a little smaller level. For example, what about like a quarterly weekend getaway or a monthly dinner with friends or an afternoon doing something that you like? Just go to the movies in the middle, plan to go to the movies in the middle of the day, or go to the library and read a book where nobody can find you, or, start a new project that what you're finding is that you're getting renewed passion because you're having to be creative for this thing on Monday, right?
Yeah.
That's always fun to me, to try to redo the website or create new tips booklets or anything that taps into the creative part of my brain is a joy for me. So if you find a project or something that you really love and want to do, you can set up milestones for that and then anticipate it. For example, going back to school. I love to learn. So if I looked at the catalog for UC Riverside and said, oh, there's a class there I really want to take, I would anticipate that every week, and it would slow my week down not getting there.
Mm.
A more common one is I like certain programs, and when they release them on Netflix or Prime, one episode a week.
I hate that.
Oh my God, I'm like checking when is it coming out? When is it out? So that also slows down your week. Now I get notifications that says, hey, there's a new episode for such and such. I'm like, yes, okay. But seriously, that's the way you create conscious, or what's the word I'm looking for? Deliberate anticipation. Schedule things in that give you joy and that you anticipate them being there. So that it's not just Christmas, not just your birthday, not just a wedding that's coming up in November, that kind of thing.
I like it.
Now we're going to talk about conscious living, right?
Well, I just want create your own anticipated moments. I think sometimes I hear, or what I hear you saying is, so many of us wait for something else to create those anticipated moments for us. But that's like being in the passenger seat of the car. You have no idea what the driver may or may not do, and it's always, even if the driver is driving 75 miles an hour and you're the passenger, you're a little on edge because, right, you're not the driver.
Right.
And it sounds like you're saying, hey, why don't you drive your own car, create your own anticipated moments, and not just wait for the major holidays. And so I think something like that is very good. We've temporarily lost Leslie. Oh, there she is. She's back.
I was trying to hook up Logic Capture and I forgot how to do it. So I could be closer to the screen like you are, because I feel I'm way far away. But that's
okay. But
but
I think the idea of doing that, and you're saying, it could be like my thing. It's like you're writing your books. It's those anticipated moments on a new show coming out that only comes out once a week, not binge watching. What other things could it be? Could it be going to conferences as a business?
It could be
educational pieces,
self-improvement things, which, I tap your hands about that, because you go to so many and you could be teaching them all. You don't need to go. But a lot of people do need it. And if you find a particular topic, like I went to an NLP workshop one time. Have you ever been to one of those?
I have. I did one for 2 weeks.
NLP, for those of you who may not know, is neuro-linguistic programming. And it's about how the way you say things can influence or affect other people. And so it's very, very interesting. And I find myself now catching advertisements and even print ads that are worded in such a way that they're manipulating somebody's perception or thought process. It's really, really interesting. Or even on the news, they'll tell you things, and then you go and do your own research, and you're like, no, that's not what that. So it's really interesting. That was a fun one for me for NLP, but there could be other things. I know you like Tony Robbins. You like to go see him, and that inspires you, right?
Yeah.
It gets you all jazzed up. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that. What gets me excited? What gets me jazzed up? What makes me increases my enthusiasm for what I do, or who I am as a human being, or how I help people. That's what you're looking for. And if you can identify those things and make time for them in your schedule, because now we're back to schedule, it will slow time down so that you can anticipate participation in those things.
Well, one of the things I notice for myself, and I bet there's at least one other person out there that's watching or listening to this, is I will try to take in too much, and for fear of FOMO, I'm going to miss out. And it could be within my industry or something new I want to learn. And what I have found myself doing is I will schedule myself to go to this webinar or this talk or whatever it is. Usually they're online. And I'll drop in for the first 10 or 15 minutes to find out, is this something I really want? And then I'll bug out, because because I realize it's not something I want. It's not a hill I want to die on. So I'm not going to put any more effort into it. So it allows me to almost say, okay, this is in my delete file. But the problem is I need to catch it before it gets to that, because it's still a waste of my time, because I am anticipating going, or I feel bad for not going. And then it comes to the replay, and I check the replay and do the same thing. I've really, as you say, I've sped up time by doing all these busy things when I could have cut that out and
Right.
really created more anticipated moments that I'm in control of.
Right. And I think, yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. It's, the fact that you put it on your calendar makes it a priority, and you don't even know for sure if it's what you need or want, if there's
Yeah.
value in it for you,
Yeah.
which means we need to do a little bit more research before we commit. If you look at your time like it's made out of gold, or whatever the current Bitcoin, or whatever the current commodity is,
Yeah.
if you look at your time like it's super, super valuable, then you can decide where you're willing to put your time. You need to be a little bit more discerning. Like for me, I would love to have a monthly dinner with friends. I think that would be something I would look forward to every single month. Unfortunately, all my friends are working, and so there isn't, and nobody's on the same wavelength as far as. I've been trying to get you and Carmen to do it, which would be lovely. But just to have that once a month or even every 6 weeks dinner together, just to relax and catch up, would be great. And so each of us are different. Each of us have to find the thing that brings us that joy, and create those milestones. But it's so easy not to do it. It's so easy.
Was that part of this, and why joy should be a line item and not your to-do list? What's the difference there?
It's how it makes you feel, right? If it's something that you're doing and it's busy work and you're just slogging through the day, that's not bringing you any joy.
So if it's like let's just play this out for a second, that I say, okay, yeah, we have scheduled a dinner with you and your husband, my wife and I, and it's because I feel like I have to do it,
Oh, well, then no,
versus
then don't do
versus
that.
versus I'm looking to do it because I feel, and I'm just making this up, is I feel
No.
guilty for doing
Oh,
that,
oh,
right?
my heart
Right?
hurts. Okay.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
There's a dear friend of mine, and he's a lifetime mentor of mine, and we've been friends for now about 25 years, and he's 85 now, and once a month we get together for lunch. And I know it's going to sound funny, but we get together at the Red Lobster. And it's not about the location. It's just that every month, the 6 weeks,
That's right.
depends on whether they're cruisers. So they'll go on these 30 and 40-day
Uh,
cruises. But it is such a joy to get in touch with him and spend time with him. And so that is definitely a line on him. And I don't feel like it's a to-do. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to seeing Ed. All right.
yeah. And that's how it should be. That's how all of life should be. We shouldn't have to. You have to do it deliberately because life is too busy, but you shouldn't have to do it deliberately. We should fill our lives with things that bring us joy, and the work should also bring us joy, right? If you don't like your job or you're slogging through it, you need to get a different job, right? Now, having said that, starting a business or being in business is always hard. It's always hard. There are good days, there are bad days, there are insane days, there are days where we are twisted and bent, so you have to, but if you still love it, that's a different thing,
Yeah.
right? Like we were talking before this podcast, I have an opportunity in front of me that I'm really, really excited about, and has renewed my passion and enthusiasm for my business, right? Because it's like I can see the potential and the opportunities, and the um, what could happen is limitless. And so you need to bring those things in, either consciously or through mindful intentions, one or the other.
Well, I'm going to challenge on it, because I'm going to go back to that part where you said, if you feel like you're stuck in a rinse and repeat cycle, that because because you're such a systems person, process and policies and procedures, that it did become rote. And now this has given you a whole new sense of what ifs, hasn't it?
Right. It does, because I can see a new direction for my business, right? I can see the possibilities. And opportunities. It's not even so much about new clients or more money or any of that. It's the opportunity to take my business in a different direction. That to me is very exciting.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a while to make those decisions. And that's the part I'm anticipating. It's going to be like forever for this decision to get made, but it's okay. Everything happens in its own time. So you just have to trust the process. But my enthusiasm is about a 24 right now, as opposed to a 9 or 10. So it's like
I could
really
tell when
exciting.
I could tell when I got the text and when we got on the phone here today, or
Yeah,
the video today. I'm excited for you about this potential opportunity. I think that's exciting.
yeah. So did we talk about quickly about I don't know if we did, about practice conscious living?
We didn't talk about that. It's not on your list of things we wanted to do, but let's talk about practicing conscious living.
Yes. So what that means is that we tend to rush through life. Okay. So we're not always fully present. I have this really bad habit of my mind needs to multitask. I'm not very good as a linear thinker. I've got, you know, 85, 100 tabs open on my computer at any given time. I have multiple applications open. My brain works the same way. It's full of open tabs and things going on. And I have a bad habit of watching TV and playing video games at the same time because I can't focus on one thing at a time, which drives my husband crazy. And I don't blame him because basically I'm cutting him out when I do
Mm.
that, right? I'm not talking to him. I'm there, but I'm not there. And it's just, I got to really stop. So, one of the things for conscious living is like take a walk without your phone. I mean, how many times do we take the phone with the excuse that we're going to listen to a podcast or listen to music or something? And we end up doing none of that, or we end up doing work, or so get rid of it. Look at the grass, take your shoes off and walk in the grass. That's one of the best things you can do for yourself, by the way.
Mm.
Grounding, get your feet on the ground. Look at the color of the sky and listen to the birds. And it sounds corny, I know, but it's cathartic, to do that. When you have a cup of coffee in the morning, don't sit there and immerse yourself in your computer or your laptop. Don't even read a book. Just be there. Just relax, kind of meditate. Practice gratitude. I'm a big believer in practicing gratitude, saying thank you every day for all the blessings that we have. And I believe that the more grateful we are, the more come in too.
Yeah,
So,
recently I typically, as I say, I play pickleball about 6 days a week, and I typically drive to the pickleball location. Now it's not far from my home; it's only about a mile away, a little over a mile. And recently, and I fought this, but I was talked into getting an electric bike,
oh,
and so I, for the last 2.5 weeks, I've been riding my bike to the pickleball court and back. And it is one of those times where, you know what, I have to be fully conscious. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not listening to it. I'm just riding my bike and I'm looking around. I'm hearing things that I wouldn't have heard in my car. And to me, that is
mhm.
so, like, sets me up for the day. I can't tell you how much joy I am getting out of riding my bike. It's
I
wild.
It's funny because when you say that, it reminds me that I have a pilot's license. You know that, right? So flying, I used to say this all the time. Flying was the only thing I did where I was 100% present
Mm,
and could not multitask, other than reading the instruments and all that stuff. I'm not multitasking with 10,000 other topics in my brain. I am singularly focused on flying that plane and not killing myself. And it proved to be, just like your bike riding, 100% cathartic. It's like taking a shower. It washes away all the noise
yeah.
out of your brain and out of your muscles and out of the tension in your body. It washes it away because, and I just got done saying that I have a problem being singularly focused, but you really need that in your life. You need to be conscious about your moments. If you're conscious about your moments, they don't go by so fast,
Mm-mm.
right? You want to savor every single moment of every single day. I just did that on vacation. It was an experiment. as you know, we took a cruise and we were in Italy, and it's been on my lifelong dream to go to Italy. So this was huge to go. And I mean, it was 2 years of planning to do this. And so I told myself when I got on that boat, I am going to consciously feel every single moment of this trip. I'm not looking at my phone. I mean, I did check, but I'm not looking at my phone. I'm feeling every moment. When you go to the buffet, when you go on into the Vatican, when you go to Pompeii, which to me was the most incredible place, every moment I savored it. And, it feels like I still am there. It was the most relaxing vacation I've ever taken because I was fully present and conscious the whole time.
Yeah. There's that saying, and I don't want to make this too long as we start to wrap up, but that person who says, while I'm here, I'm thinking about being there. When I'm there, I'm thinking about being here, and I'm never present. And I think that's really good of what you're saying is try to practice that. And I want to share with everyone a little thing that I did, and you can use this on anything. But when I was in the golf industry, I was a teacher for some of that point. And one of my students he said, how do you get rid of the monkey mind? While I'm trying to hit this ball, he said, I know I need to be present, but I've got 4 or 5 other thoughts going around in my head. And I said, well, your concentration or your focus to be present is nothing more than an exercise to improve that muscle or that habit. So what I'd have him do is I'd have him sit down on a chair. We're on the back of the driving range. We're out there by ourselves. And I'd say, I want you to look at this ball. And I said, I want you to examine this golf ball. And I said, pick a ball, this golf ball. And I want you to look at the dimples and the writing on it. And if there's any scarring on the ball. And I want you to just focus only on that ball and understand everything about that ball. I said, but the moment you feel another thought come in, let me know. And over the course of time, it went from like 5 seconds to 50 seconds. And so we 10x'd his concentration, and he went from being a 14 handicap to a 4 handicap.
Wow.
Because he learned to be present. So sometimes it's like what you did. You made a conscious effort that I am going to be here and I'm going to enjoy the trip. I'm going to enjoy my husband. I'm going to enjoy the meal. I'm going to enjoy the linen at the table, whatever it is. The smell when you walk into one of these domos, and it's amazing how magnificent they are. And you're thinking, wow, this was built before cranes and things of that nature, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's an atmosphere in it because the ceilings are so high. Right.
The Sistine Chapel was like that. It's like he laid on his back and did all of this. Wow. It's like amazing. So yeah, totally get that. I like that with the golf ball. That's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah. And you could do that with anything, Leslie.
Yeah, but totally. You can. I used to have a lot of negative self-talk in my head. I had a rough growing up time, and I had all this, it was constantly coming back at me all the time. And one day I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm only hurting myself. It's like hate. When you hate something, you're only hurting you. The thing you're hating does not feel it.
Yeah.
Right? So I started to practice conscious change of self-talk and turn it off. And when it would start, I would say, nope, I'm not doing this. And I would change it. And pretty soon it went away.
Yeah.
I don't have any of that anymore. I don't have any negative self-talk in my head. So I think that, and that's the same exact kind of thing, conscious living. Gratitude and conscious living will take you farther than you could ever thought possible.
Here's a piece. It's not to get too heady or scientific, but our brain is neuroplasticity. The neuroplasticity in our brain allows us to change. We used to think, once you are, and that's not true. And it's like as an example, if you had a plant and you cut off water to it, what would it do? Well, it would probably shrivel up and die. Well, if you stop feeding those habits that no longer serve you, like negative self-talk, and it will die off. But what happens is it creates a new neurotransmitter of what you do want to say. And, I'm going to go back to pickleball is I hear people say something like they'll hit a shot and they say, oh, I'm so stupid. Why do I keep doing that? And I'm like, well, because you keep feeding that plant. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. People don't realize that again, it's funny how we're kind of covering neuro-linguistic programming at the same time, right? Um, that's exactly right. What you say comes to you and does and repeats itself. Dan told me from the beginning that I met him that he has the worst luck possible. He's like Murphy's Law, squared. And I don't believe that way. I believe in everything good and that will come to you. And so I don't have those issues that he does. And so his have gotten better too, because I've been trying to reprogram his thought process that that's not true, that good things do happen, So the last part of this for me is the carpe diem, which we said in the beginning, is that you really have to seize the day and make a conscious effort to savor the moments. If you savor the moments, time does not fly, right?
I think that's exactly right. Savoring the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because don't we do that sometimes? I remember when I first, and this will be my last thought, when the first time my wife and I went on vacation, we're coming back from Hawaii, and she's crying on the plane on the way back, and I'm like, what's the matter? And said, didn't you have a good time? She had a great time. She said, just didn't want it to end. Like, and she is one of those gals is like, when we have people over, she's already planning the next meal because she loves to do that kind of stuff. So we'll have to have you and Dan over. Now that you're back from vacation, our kitchen is remodeled. We can actually have people over. And so, yeah, savoring that moment. And I just want to put this up here. With every adversity, there's a seed of equal or greater benefit. This is a saying I started saying many, many, many years ago that, hey, when we're having some trouble, we can say this is a seed of more problems, or it's something of equal or greater benefit that's happening for me, right? It's a good door. And so for me, that's something that's helped me a little bit.
Every adversity is a learning opportunity. And sometimes we don't understand what that opportunity is right away. There's a lesson or an opportunity there. And sometimes we don't know what it is. I had a bad thing happen in my business years ago, and it actually turned out to be a huge benefit to my company because I changed the way my company ran because of it. And and sometimes you don't realize why, it's like, why do I have to do this? I don't get it. But if you are quiet and present, the answer will come to you and you will figure out what it is. You just have to be aware that you've asked a question. Now you have to be aware and look for the answer, and it will come. Totally.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up today, Leslie. We've talked about, I think we've talked a lot about this whole, how time flies, how to slow it down, how to create your own anticipation and not wait for it to come because you might be disappointed. And then realizing that, the talk we have in our head, I think more than anything, and you've been to enough of these before, when somebody's wanting to do some kind of a change, whether it's install a new benefit at your business, whatever, the one thing they talk about is changing your mindset first. Mm-hmm. You're always confused. Like, why are we talking about feeling good about ourselves and unblocking these things? I don't know how to install this thing and use it. It's because change doesn't happen without the right mindset to let it in.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So I want to thank you again, Leslie, for being here today. I think you've unpacked and really explained a really cool piece here about the whole idea about time is moving fast. Talk to us a little bit about things like, hey, where can people pick up this program and listen to more of this?
So we have this both in video and with audio and just audio. So you can find us on YouTube or Spotify. Do we have a special YouTube page for this, or is it on your page and my page?
It is. It's on each one of our pages.
Okay. So we both have it also on both our websites, which is mine is Concierge Business Solutions and yours is Swing Point Media. Sorry.
Swingpointmedia.com. Yeah.
I knew that. We both have a link and a page to this podcast. We have, I don't know how many episodes we have in the can now, but quite a few. And this one's been one of my favorite ones today. I love this one. So make a point to watch them, like them, share them, tell other people about them, because we really want to get our message out to as many people as possible and help as many people as possible. So you can find us in both places, Spotify and YouTube.
Fantastic. Well, Leslie, I want to say thank you
Oh,
again.
my course. Yeah.
The course. Tell us about this. Check out the course here.
Yeah, I created an educational training course called Freedom by Design, Build a Company That Runs Itself, or Build a Business That Runs Itself. And if you find that you are stuck in the middle of your business and can't grow, or are too busy and overwhelmed, then check out this course, Freedom by Design. Jeff has the link up here. It's learn.conciergebusinesssolutions.com. And I will tell you exactly what you need to do to put the puzzle of your business together so that it is strong and you achieve the picture on the box. You know, so many of us, when we start our own business, we have a goal, we have a reason for starting a business. We want more time with our grandkids, we want to travel more, we want to achieve financial independence, whatever it is. We all have our own picture. And so we have to put the puzzle together so we can see the picture. And this course will help you do that. So learn.conciergebusinesssolutions.com and check it out.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Well, we'll see you again next week on the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur podcast. If you feel like your sanity is better today, we really appreciate it. Please leave a comment and share it with somebody else who you think, hey, you know what? This could help them too. And please check out our podcast. I think this is either 18 or 19. So let's keep going. Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going.
All right.
All right, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.